Good evening, I'm Ebony Brand, and today is Friday, 19th January 2018. This is the SKN News Now Evening Edition. In the headlines tonight, nationally, Dr. Terence Drew is urging government workers exposed to carbon dioxide to seek medical help. Internationally, French and United Kingdom leaders are meeting to discuss security issues. And in sport, Brazil football legend Pelé has been hospitalized after collapsing. We have the details of these stories, the weather and Carib update, all ahead in tonight's edition of SKN News Now. Persons working out of the premises which house the Ministry of Labour and National Drug Council are being urged not to return to work until the premises are declared safe by occupational safety authorities and to see their doctors urgently. This warning is coming from internist Dr. Terence Drew, who is warning of the impact that exposure to high levels of carbon dioxide can have on a person's health. The symptoms of exposure can be mild, becoming severe with exposure over extended periods. A host of symptoms can present when persons are exposed to high levels of carbon dioxide. Often, the symptoms resulting from the underlying issue, carbon dioxide exposure, can prove difficult to diagnose. Over time, this can lead to a person developing conditions such as hypercapnia or elevated levels of carbon dioxide in the blood and respiratory acidosis, which occurs when the lungs can't remove enough of the carbon dioxide produced by the body. According to Dr. Terence Drew, the health concerns for persons working in that unsafe environment are real and should be treated with urgency, not only by the Ministry of Labour, but also the Ministry of Health.
Okay, this is a health situation where the Ministry of Health is supposed to get involved. Because here you have an environment where people's health is being affected by a contaminated environment, and a political decision is being made so as to save face, putting the health of the workers at risk. And so I'm asking all those people to get out of there until the Bureau of Standards would have returned and declared the environment safe for them to work. This is, of course, very, very, very sad. And I want to really hit this issue. I'm calling on the PS for Labour. This is, of course, in no way a personal attack. This is a serious health issue, and you need to be prudent and protect the workers' health.
Dr. Drew also identified some of the symptoms which can present with exposure to carbon dioxide. He says the workers need to be made aware of this so that if they have experienced any of these symptoms, they can see their physician right away.
When you have about 2% there, workers can have headaches, dyspnea. What does dyspnea and mild exertion mean? What does that mean? It means shortness of breath when you walk upstairs, walk downstairs, or walk around the office. If you have been working in the office of the Ministry of Labour or the Drug Council and this has been happening to you, this could actually be the cause of why you are having these frequent headaches and having shortness of breath or gasping for air when you do anything physical. You can go on from that and you could go to sweating. And you can also have shortness of breath at rest, which means without doing anything, you're up in that building and you're just feeling short of breath. As it gets more, you can have dizziness and your blood pressure can go up. You can start suffering from high blood pressure. And the shortness of breath, of course, can get worse. Some people can have hearing problem, visual problem. They can start having tremors and trembling from being in an environment with excessive concentration of carbon dioxide. And if it gets worse, you can go on to have increased heart rate, which means your heart beating fast. You can have worsening of the shortness of breath. You can breathe properly. You can have intense sweating and even more dizziness. And if it gets worse, you can go up to having severe muscle twitching, drowsiness. You come to work and you're up there and you feel drowsy every minute you want to sleep. And some people, if it gets really bad, can go into a state of unconsciousness.
Although he did not allow any information to slip, Honorable Congress Maynard says he's very excited for the announcement of the persons who will contest the 2020 federal elections on the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party ticket. Maynard, who indicated that he was part of the candidate selection process, said he was heartened by the persons who have presented themselves. He added that whomever the final selections are, they will give their opponents a considerable run for their money.
And mind you, I don't know the final decision as yet, right? Because it's in the committee stage and they have not announced it yet. But I do know who some of the viable options are. And either of the options that have come forward in some of these constituencies will give some of the incumbent representatives a hard time.
Maynard added that the number of young people who have presented themselves for consideration is also extremely encouraging, particularly as the SKNLP is in opposition.
But I am very, very pleased with the amount of young people, young men, young women who have shown interest in being a part of our political movement. For a party in opposition, when you can have the number of interested candidates that we had, I can say it publicly, 18 people registered and showed their intent to be candidates for 8 seats in St. Kitts and Nevis. 18 people.
Mr. Maynard is also appealing to young persons to take an interest in their country and to become an important part of the political and decision-making processes. He believes that it's not enough for young people to simply sit on the sidelines and wait for an election.
That it is so very important to become a part of the process. We cannot wait until an election has gone to say, perhaps I should have reconsidered my vote. Because it is us, the voters, who have to live with the choice that we have made for 15 years. We do not have a system per se that we can force out by legislation or by petition or anything of that sort, anyone who we have elected. And so I'm encouraging young persons to get involved in the process, to become politically engaged. And politically engaged does not mean that you have to wear a red shirt. It doesn't mean that you have to become partisan. It doesn't mean that because your friend supports another party, you have to get be upset with them or create any animosity between yourselves. What it means is that you must understand the issues that are affecting you and the nation, and understand that through our democracy, you have the power to change the course and the direction of this country. It is not set in stone, because ultimately the power lies in the people. And when people realize that if they come together in harmony to say, this is what we want, our system allows for their wishes to be heard.
In other news, a Caribbean Forum or CARA Forum senior officials meeting on Brexit will conclude today in St. Kitts. The two-day meeting, which began on Thursday, is intended to start the discussion among the 15 member states on how Britain's departure from the European Union could create trade issues for the Caribbean. The January 18th and 19th meetings are being held with the objective of forming a mutually beneficial negotiation strategy for the new trade agreements. The CARIFORUM Economic Partnership Agreement, or EPA, is a comprehensive agreement covering the trade of goods and services for the Caribbean Community Islands and the Dominican Republic. The United Kingdom's withdrawal from the European Union leaves the UK-Caribbean trading relations at a crossroads, after more than 4 decades of trading being governed by EU policies. Although trade officials say Brexit presents challenges of ensuring trade continuity for CARIFORUM, they remain optimistic that opportunities to redefine and reshape future trade and investment relations exists. 2 persons are now in police custody and assisting authorities in figuring out how a large quantity of marijuana ended up inside an imported water heater. According to police, on Wednesday morning this week, A package marked Prestige Trucking Services was searched at the head office of Her Majesty's Customs and Excise Department at Bird Rock. Authorities found 12 packages with what appeared to be marijuana secreted away inside a water heater contained in the parcel. The packages containing the marijuana weighed approximately 18.39 pounds. Assistant Commissioner of Police Terence James has since said that operations like this, increased vigilance on the part of authorities, and better cooperation between police and partner agencies like the Customs and Excise Department have accounted for the increase in drug cases recorded in the police's preliminary 2017 statistics. The identities of the persons arrested in connection with the drug find have not been revealed. Meanwhile, following the test of the traffic lights earlier this week, Director of Public Works Department Cromwell Williams is urging the public to be prepared for the lights commissioning. He said this is likely by the end of this month. However, there is one more hurdle to pass before the lights are switched on. Williams' Light Traffic Department Head Inspector Carl Keynes commented on the need for amendments to be made to existing traffic regulations. Williams said this was being finalized by the legal department and will then require the signature of the Minister with responsibility for transport, Ian Liburd. From a technical standpoint, however, preparations have been completed today for the commissioning of the lights. Meanwhile, the traffic light system was installed by Synergy Engineering Limited of Jamaica. Barrington Cross, a traffic signal analyst with the company, disclosed that after the commissioning of the lights, some tweaks will be necessary from time to time based on the number of cars using the lights at various intersections. A number of technicians employed by the local government have been trained to program the traffic lights as well as to perform maintenance on the control system. In addition to the training they received in St. Kitts, the team will also travel overseas for additional training. The St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party, however, has criticized the government's handling of the installation and commissioning of the lights. The SKNLP has for months insisted that the changes required to the existing traffic laws are not as simple as has been purported by the government and its technicians. Instead of a signature by a minister changing regulations, the SKNLP says the matter must be brought before the National Assembly with changes made to the Vehicles and Road Traffic Act, as the new lights could affect a number of traffic-related issues, including examinations for new drivers. Despite the controversy, police are optimistic that the lights will make their job easier by reducing the number of accidents and congestion in the city and generally increasing safety for all road users. Stay with us, still to come. Straight ahead in tonight's edition of SKN News Now, International Developments. British Prime Minister Theresa May and French President Emmanuel Macron have vowed to continue cooperating on a range of issues after the United Kingdom leaves the European Union. The two sides also promised to help each other in their respective foreign military operations. British helicopters to help France's fight against ISIL and Al-Qaeda in Africa, and French assistance in securing the EU's eastern borders with Russia. In his first presidential visit to the UK, Macron said the history between the two countries could not be impacted by changes in institutions. Jonah Hull reports.
Where better to talk defence and security cooperation than Britain's world-famous Sandhurst Military Academy? The British Army may not be the global force it once was, but France and Britain are still the main EU military powers, just one of many things in common that these two leaders say they're keen to preserve post-Brexit.
While this summit takes place as the UK prepares to leave the EU, we are and will remain a steadfast partner to our friends and allies. And a strong and deep relationship between the United Kingdom and France remains in both our interests. The President and I agree on the importance of the UK-France relationship, not just to our security, but to European security.
They also share a border on the French side, including the sometimes troubled port of Calais, and a border agreement that Emmanuel Macron initially had said he wanted to tear up. Instead, Britain will pay tens of millions of dollars more towards reinforcing it and helping France deal with the burden of migrants and refugees trying to reach Britain. It is Mr. Macron's nod in the direction of common interests and continued close future ties.
There are two things that cannot be changed, our history and our geography. These cannot be impacted by changes in the institution or office. We are facing common challenges, and we share the same destiny.
The two sides also promised to help each other in their foreign military operations. British helicopters to help France's fight against ISIL and Al-Qaeda in North Africa. French assistance in securing the EU's eastern borders with Russia. But the real focus of attention here is as much defence as it is diplomacy. It is the UK government trying to forge a close future relationship with France inside the EU when Britain is out. As Brexit negotiations enter their most difficult stage, trade talks, there may well be more of this sort of treatment of EU leaders. Britain trying to maintain influence while it still can, and relevance when it's all over.
President Donald Trump marks his first year in office on Saturday, January 20th. Trump's tumultuous first year was unlike any other in recent U.S. political history, and 2018 could offer more of the same. Jim Malone has more.
For America's 45th president, it was a bold beginning.
From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first.
President Trump moved swiftly to cut Obama-era regulations and filled a vacancy on the Supreme Court. His biggest victory came in December, a sweeping tax cut bill.
This is the bill right here, and we're very proud of it. It's going to be a tremendous thing for the American people. It's going to be fantastic for the economy.
Passage of the tax bill could help Republicans in this year's congressional elections, says analyst John Fortier.
Republicans did get a tax bill passed, a significant tax bill in December. That was a major accomplishment for them, so that is something that has put them on a better track.
Mr. McCain. No.
But Trump's first year saw plenty of setbacks as well. There was a failed attempt to repeal Obamacare, numerous outbursts on Twitter, and at times inflammatory presidential rhetoric, including Trump's recent reported vulgar description of Haiti and African countries.
No, I'm not a racist.
That prompted outrage from Democrats, including Senator Cory Booker.
Those words just don't dissipate like mist in the air. They fester. They become poison. They give license to bigotry and hate in our country.
Trump's controversial and at times polarizing leadership style continues to hurt his poll ratings, despite a strong economy, says analyst John Hudak.
I think people are judging him on a variety of other factors other than the economy, and that explains his lower approval rating.
Hey, ho, ho! Donald Trump has got to go!
Trump's historically low presidential approval rating could also fuel Democratic gains in the November congressional elections, says analyst Larry Sabato.
When there's a wave, the water does not distinguish between those who've identified with an unpopular president and those who've tried to put distance between themselves and that unpopular president.
For 2018, Trump hopes a strong economy will improve his poll numbers. But the prospect of election losses in November and a Russia probe with no end in sight could make Trump's second year in office even more challenging than his first.
Still straight ahead in this evening's edition of SKN News Now, sport, the weather, and Carib Update. Brazil legend Pelé is in hospital after collapsing on Thursday with exhaustion. The 77-year-old was due to travel to London this weekend for a dinner held in his honor by the Football Writers Association. Pele, the only player to win 3 World Cups, has undergone a series of tests which appear to point to severe exhaustion, according to the Football Writers Association. He's on fluids while doctors monitor his recovery, and thankfully there's no suggestion of anything more serious, they put out in a statement. Pele has been taken to hospital for kidney and prostate problems in recent years. Widely regarded as the greatest player of all time, he scored 1,281 goals in 1,363 appearances during his 21-year career, including 77 goals in 91 appearances for Brazil. He helped his country win the 1958, 1962 and 1970 World Cups and was named FIFA's Player of the Century. And with that look at sport, we now have a look at this evening's weather forecast. Over St. Kitts and Nevis tonight, we can expect partly cloudy conditions with a 20% or slight chance of showers. Seas are moderate with wave heights of 1.2 to 1.8 meters or 4 to 6 feet. Cautions remain in effect for small craft operators and sea bathers against above normal sea conditions. Winds are east to east-northeasterly, ranging between 9 and 14 miles per hour. The sea level pressure is 1,017 millibars or 30.03 inches. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:34 a.m. And that brings us to the end of this evening's news presentation. Now for a recap of today's top stories. Nationally, Dr. Terence Drew is urging government workers exposed to carbon dioxide to seek medical help. Internationally, French and United Kingdom leaders are meeting to discuss security. And in sport, Brazil football legend Pele has been hospitalized after collapsing. I've been your presenter this evening, Ebony Brandon. Thank you so much for tuning in. Still to come, Carib Update followed by DJ Yardi. Goodbye.